condense and refine complex concepts into like accessible, easy language.
Eye articulation. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Today we are here with Damian Kai Norman. He is a somatic therapist, a registered therapeutic counselor, a movement and breathwork facilitator, as well as a somatic educator, and a co-founder of the Somatic Embodiment Academy, located here in Vancouver, British Columbia. So thank you so much for being with us here on the Living Body Connection series.
Yeah, a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about what brought you into somatics and what somatics is for you?
Yeah, the first piece is acknowledging my dance background. So I came from a professional dance background, and a big part of that work ended up bringing me into working with addiction and really seeing the intersections of embodied movement as a way to actually build meaningful relationships with folks navigating complex trauma and recovery from substance abuse. And it was, I suppose, the bridge between ending my career in dance at the time and then finding myself working on the Downtown Eastside and navigating my own very much dysregulation and unintegrated trauma in many ways surfacing through that work, which catapulted me into somatics and breathwork and therapy, and seeing the necessity of not just like the value of talk therapy for sure, but seeing that there were many unintegrated physiological pieces that needed to be addressed, and wanting to know the skills of actually doing so.
And for you personally, what is your favorite way to connect with your body?
I like actually having many different tools to blend together, but certainly the top would be dance. So my own personal, more explorative movement practice, a little less structured, more intuitive. Breath work, of course, being a huge one, and then a meditation being the other.
I love that. I love the diversity. You know, it's something we often forget, or I personally forget in creating a movement practice or a body practice. It's like all these different facets help us connect to ourselves on subtle levels, expressive levels. Is there a specific technique or practice that's been the most effective for you to really regulate your nervous system and bring you into mind-body connection?
Absolutely. I think the two that come to mind are somatic experiencing. So I'm trained in the 3-year somatic experiencing international training, and a more refined approach of how to move out of the narrative or meaning that I assign to physical activation, and more tools to actually grow my capacity to be with sensation, emotion, pain in my body. I've been recovering now over the past year in particular. I'm moving much more into, I guess, more health in my body, but recovering from chronic pain for about 10 years. And somatic therapy has been instrumental in that journey. And then, conscious connected breath work, which of course there are many ways of doing that, but my approach and the way that resonates most with me is a much gentler version of CCB.
So you're saying that with your somatic practices, you've been able to address and reverse chronic pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I guess the more physical diagnosis was disc degeneration in my L5-S1, which is not too uncommon, but certainly was perpetuated by my dance career, and one of the reasons why I left my dance training. And I mean, it's not an exaggeration by any means to say that there were many times throughout the past few years in particular where I was paralyzed on the floor and unable to move, and in a very acute, like 10 out of 10 challenging, painful experience in my body.
Wow.
And it was very humbling, especially as a man who takes pride in his physicality and ability to move, and really having to slow things way down. And to recognize for myself a big part of that being, the unaddressed psychosomatic trauma in my system, and the way my nervous system still to this day perceives threat that's maybe incongruent with the actual environment or what's happening, right? So somatic therapy with my own therapist, my own personal practices, and CCB have been wonderful for growing my capacity to be with pain and like hold simultaneous experiences, right? To be with my pain, but also to be in relation to the world around me. And then, go a little bit deeper into what's perpetuating that pain and perpetuating my perceived threat outside of myself or internally as well.
I think for people who are new to somatics or body-based therapies, this is a new kind of thing to be with discomfort or be with pain. And I wonder if you could speak a little bit as your experience of as a somatic therapist, what that journey is out of from the mind and the story
Yeah.
and into just being with. And yeah, if you could just speak to kind of guiding people into that as a somatic therapist.
Absolutely. I mean, there are many different pieces, and maybe I'll also speak simultaneously to the breath workers out there as well. There's kind of two pathways that I see, right? And the one is to allow authentic expression to come through, right? To notice what was not available earlier in childhood or at some point in time where there was traumatic rupture, what was suppressed or oppressed for lack of safety or lack of agency, maybe a feeling of helplessness that shut us down from our authentic expression. And how do we allow ourselves to feel, like to get better at feeling, to not only feel, but express our emotional bodies and our emotional expression. So there's that kind of pathway that I think CCB in some ways kind of over exaggerates at times. But then the other one being, the ability to actually contain or be with or grow our container to hold emotional activation in our bodies, right? And that for me has been more just to know where my window of tolerance is, to use things like SciBAM. So this kind of model of working with sensation, working with imagery, working with emotion, working with holding patterns in particular, noticing where my body like braces or grips or bears down, and then how to actually, direct more focus towards those like columns versus the narrative my mind makes about something.
And could you share a little bit more directly about the work that you do and how you work with clients to bring them into mind-body connection?
People in therapy, they come with a story. They come with a very rich story, right? A very often complex narrative, and recognizing the kind of enmeshment of a story and our identity being kind of, entangled somehow. And what often is missed is that there's another story being told in our bodies, in our physiology. So a really classic approach is to allow space, of course, for the story to be told to a certain extent, but then actually like pausing. A classic sort of phrase that I often say to my clients is that, hey, your story is incredibly important to me, and I genuinely want to know and to hear and to receive that story. And can we pause here and notice what's happening in your body as you retell this story? Right. And that simple redirection and practice of, there's a narrative that I'm continuing to perpetuate, but what's actually happening sensorially, physically, emotionally, metaphorically, right? And then to see that actually those columns, again, of sensation, imagery, emotion, body holding, are actually connected to where trauma is stored, which is in our unconscious mind and nervous system.
This disconnect between kind of these narratives and stories and what's actually occurring in kind of present time through our bodies, through our senses.
Yes.
Where's the reality? And I really feel like the body and somatics is really a doorway to discovering, or at least integrating, this reality that we have upstairs.
Totally.
And like what's occurring, like
exactly in the here and now.
Like, wow. Okay, we've reached our 30-second body connect challenge. This is where I invite guests to lead us through embodiment practice in 30 seconds or less, or it's okay if it's 40 seconds or a minute. It's okay.
We'll do our best.
So I'll hand it over to you, Damian, to lead us through a practice.
Wonderful. Well, maybe we'll work actually with a physiological sigh. This is a sigh that'll happen in everyday life. So you can imagine the last time you received a warm, nourishing hug, or maybe came home from a long day and fell back into your bed of maybe freshly washed sheets, and just that sense of, right, this completely relaxed exhalation. So if you close your eyes for a moment and just take a few breaths, very natural breaths, perhaps starting through the nose, just taking a moment to ground to the here and now. And then when you're ready, I want you to begin to proactively soften the jaw. Notice how the point of contact between the jaw and just behind the ear might lengthen and open. Feel the sense of the throat being unobstructed, like this hollow instrument that is your throat. Take a few breaths and find a breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And notice any propensity to control, constrict, or elongate the exhalation. see how you can let the exhale be completely relaxed and dropped. And you might just take a few moments to play with that breath, a few rounds, and notice the difference between the next time that you control, elongate, constrict an exhalation, and where you might actually allow that sense of letting go through the quality of your exhalation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I already feel calmer. It's amazing to become more aware of the places where we're holding in our bodies, in our breath. I know I have a tendency to hold my breath, so that was a really wonderful way to return to a relaxed and present state. So we're reaching the end of our interview, and if there's one key takeaway that you could leave our viewers with for how they can simply and easily connect to their bodies in their everyday lives, what would it be?
There is a correlation between when we feel perceived threat, when we're noticing anxiousness, when we're noticing discomfort, and our unconscious breathing patterns. And perhaps to notice the next time that you feel somehow threatened or there's fear or anxiousness, discomfort in your body, take a moment to slow things down and notice, how does your breath pattern change? How can you slow that breathing down and notice where the breath begins to brace, hold, grip, control in some ways, and actually perhaps allow a bit more ease and relaxation through the quality of your breath.
Can you tell us how we can find you online, in person?
Yeah.
If you have any classes or upcoming events, please share with us
Yeah,
how we can stay in touch with you and your work.
totally. I mean, lots happening. Our website is the Somatic Embodiment Academy.ca. So I run trainings for somatic coaching and breathwork facilitation. Our next online training, our level 1 and level 2 online 12-week program, starts April 15th. And then otherwise, we have community events that are run through the Flying Sage, that are run through my own platform. We actually are launching an online platform in May as well. So all these pieces are coming down the pipeline, and you can find them all at the Somatic Embodiment Academy.ca or Soulful Somatic on Instagram.
Thank you so much, Damian, for being with us here today. It's been an absolute pleasure to sit with you and to explore our bodies and our breath. So thank you again. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you next time.
Hey, nice. Yeah.